Okay, what's happening, guys? We're back for another workout. This time we have a lower body day. So I'm going to be focusing, as the name implies, lower body. Now, a bit different to leg day. Leg day, I'm going to emphasize the legs, whereas in lower body, we're kind of going from here down, so the midsection down. So there will be some core exercises in there. Now, first things first, what we want to do is make sure that we're warming up accordingly, as I've said in previous videos, 5 to 10 minutes. Now, because we're focusing on the lower body today, I want to focus on not just cardio equipment to increase my heart rate, but potentially something that's actually going to stimulate muscles in my legs a little bit. So focusing on legs. So I generally recommend the bike. Another good example might be something like the stairs or the stepper. Sorry, we have on behind. Actually, we're going to show that one here. You can show it on camera. Yeah, so again, so the emphasis here is just focusing on an exercise that's going to increase your heart rate, but also focusing on the legs. So if you're using the arm crank, potentially more appropriate for an upper body day. So bike over here, just do a quick setup. I'm not going to do the full 5 to 10 minutes or else I'll be here all day. It's not necessarily set up for the right height as me. But again, what I want to focus on is just making sure I'm keeping a jogging pace, so 60% roughly. Again, if you don't have much time and you've only got 5 minutes, like a lunch break or something, potentially increase that a little bit just to get your heart rate up further. But if you've got plenty of time in the day, you can go for 10 minutes. You can potentially go longer, but you're just essentially fatiguing yourself for the workout ahead. So you're going to find a nice balance where you're warming up without killing yourself for the workout ahead, because we're not here to warm up, we're here to actually do the exercises. Okay guys, so the first exercise is actually a superset. So if anyone who's, again, curious to know what a superset is, it's usually 2 exercises. It can be more, but that's referred to more as a giant set. So a superset is 2 exercises back to back. So essentially you do 1 exercise followed by the next exercise. Generally speaking, we like to make sure that the 2 exercises are not using the same muscle group. So to go from a leg press to a squat, too similar, too much, is going to burn you out too much. Okay, so we're actually going to do a leg exercise and then a core exercise. So leg press followed by a plank. Leg press 20 reps and then the plank 30 seconds. So let's start with the leg press. For your leg press here, guys, we've got an adjustment down the bottom here. Some leg press exercises have some don't. Some have more options, some have less options. What I want you to think about right now is not to overthink it too much. Just find an exercise you're comfortable with. My girlfriend, the person taking this video, if she has it too low, she gets pushed off the edge. If I have it too high, I can't actually get in a comfortable position. So just find something that you're comfortable in for now, and then in future videos, I'll be explaining the sort of difference in positioning, essentially to target the legs differently. Okay, so I haven't got any weight on here, which is great. So I'm going to get in comfortably, make sure my feet are nice and flat. I'm going to push off the rack, and then I'm going to remove the safety rack, bringing my knees into my chest, and then pushing. One thing I'm trying to avoid is my bum lifting off the bench. We want to avoid that. We're going to keep the bum down, and that's going to be your full range of motion. Anytime your bum is lifting off like that, you're going to go into spinal flexion and potentially put a lot of strain on your spine. So just a couple reps there to kind of show you what that's going to look like. All right, so we've done the leg press. The superset is with a plank. So again, focusing on the core muscles here. Planks, for some reason, people really struggle with the technique of a plank. I want you to think about your best posture with your feet together. If you squeeze your glutes together and your core tight, this is what a plank is. Now, I don't know many people who stand like this willingly, so don't do a plank like this, okay? Stand up nice and straight, core nice and tight, and if you're starting to struggle, maybe drop down to your knees, or just focus on keep pushing that technique a little bit further. So, again, if you have a watch or a phone, you're just going to time yourself there. Now, what you're trying to think about here is that your elbows are going towards your toes, not away from them. If you go away from them, that's when you start to lift your bum off the end or go down. Okay? Keep it nice and straight, posture nice and neutral, everything straight. What you're trying to avoid again is this. Again, a lot of strain on the neck. So, that's it. Now, again, the program says 30 seconds, assuming you're a beginner. If you haven't done a plank before or you haven't done it for a long time, 30 seconds is really tough. Maybe go a little bit lower and just make a note of that. Or potentially 30 seconds is way too easy for you because you're a freak gymnast or something. You can put it a little bit longer and emphasize the focus on a weak point, which might be the leg press. Let's move on to the next exercise. Okay, check the phone to see what exercise I've got next. Another superset, again, just to let people know that if you're someone who kind of struggles going back to back on exercises, you prefer to work one exercise at a time, you have all power to you, essentially. We don't want to restrict you. The only reason we do these sort of supersets is, again, these muscle groups don't necessarily affect each other too much, so it's a good way to make a 1 hour workout 30-minute workout, because you're essentially halving the time. But if you want to stay a bit longer, go for it, all power to you. So next up, we've got another superset. We're going to do some prisoner squats. Prisoner squats are great because if you've never done squats before, it's a great way to keep your position. A lot of problems when people start squatting is that besides the fact they don't get enough depth, they tend to slouch forward. They think that this is how you do a squat. Prisoner squat is hands behind your back, essentially how a prisoner would be locked up. That's where the name comes from. And we're trying to squat in this position here. Now, what does this do? It stops us from slouching forward. So we're able to squat down, squat back up. Now, I've just finished a leg workout today, so I'm sweaty everywhere. My legs really hurt. So prisoner squats, especially if you haven't done squats for a while. Now again, depth or range of motion is going to be, at the very least for a beginner, parallel to the floor. So parallel to the floor, back up, okay? Once you develop and you start getting stronger, you start to get a bit lower, and it's also going to depend on things like your limb length, on how wide and how narrow. But for now, just find a stance you feel comfortable with. Generally speaking, it's going to be somewhere around shoulder width apart, maybe a bit wider. One thing I forgot to mention just before as well, the prisoner squats, again, if you're a beginner, if you haven't done squats before, they're going to be really difficult, especially because I think the program says 25 reps, around that mark. So it's very difficult. But you're eventually going to get to a point where you're going to need some weight, because that rep range is either going to go down or you're going to have some adaptations, so you want to make things a bit harder. So a little trick, if you still want to do the prisoner because it helps you keep the technique, you can still add some weight that way. Now, again, if you add 10 kilos, it's going to be very difficult to hold that position. So don't be afraid to do something more like that. Again, just making sure that you keep the technique. The main focus here isn't to say prisoner is some magical form of squat, it's to say that's a good foundation into the more difficult exercises. Now, let's move on to the laying leg raise. As the name suggests, laying, the point of your hands underneath your bottom is to allow you to flatten your back to the ground, where you can keep your core a little bit more engaged and you have less back issues if you do have them. Leg raise. Okay. Now, if you find that too difficult, there is a regression to that. So essentially, we would go knee tucks. So that'll just kind of remove a lot of the leverage to make it a bit easier. Again, once you find this to be okay, you can go leg raises. Okay. So once again, I'm just going to cross-check the rep range in there too, just to make sure everything is correct. But again, what it's going to look like, yes, 25 and 25. So the prisoner squats 25, the laying knee tucks 25. Again, it might seem high reps for now, but again, what we're trying to do is build foundation while minimizing any sort of risk of injury. That rep range will go much lower. Okay, so final superset. We're going to remove the core exercises out of this and focus on isolating the leg muscles. So for this one, what I'm going to do is actually leg extension followed by leg curl. The leg curl, some gyms, people have laying leg curls, or we have seated leg curls. We don't have a laying leg curl here, so we're going to do a seated one. So leg extension to set up. Generally speaking, unless you have like, I don't know, a severe issue with lack of mobility, I will always try and make sure that this is set as far as I can in, if not further. If you want to go further, there's a little hack you can do and put a bit of a mat on there, and that'll essentially be able to get you to extend your legs even further with the leg extension. So again, the adjustments, I'm not going to go into too much detail right now because all the gyms and all the equipment have different sort of setups. So if I say number 4, it's not going to make sense to you because your gym number 4 might be for a really tall person or a really short person. So I know that I'm generally number 4 here, but again, I want to make sure that this bit here is sitting on the round part of my foot, as it makes sense. If it's too far on my toe, you're going to hurt your toes. If it's too high up, you're not going to have as much leverage. So this position here, again, the seat positioning is a little bit strange as well, in the sense that this is a bit too far forward for me because I can't get all the way in. Just going to adjust that there. It's a little bit heavy, but we'll go from here. We're going to breathe in, exhale, push, and extend up. Just a few reps here to kind of explain how it works. But again, the focus is on the quad muscles here. So what I'm trying to avoid is this bit here, not avoid it, but just these forms of reps. I'm trying to get full range of motion. I'm trying to essentially extend my leg as far as I can. I'm going to get that nice squeeze at the top. There are some cases where you might get a bit of a cramp, normal, but hopefully that's something you're going to adapt into, especially as you incorporate more foods and add magnesium into your diet. Okay, so this is your seated leg curl. What I'm going to do here is again just explain the different adjustments on here. This one has 3. Some exercises, some machines have 4, some have 5, some have like infinite levels of setup. The point is that you're fitting yourself in comfortably and potentially hiring a coach or a face-to-face trainer just for 1 or 2 sessions just to help you with some of the equipment that doesn't make sense to you. In here, weight's okay. And make sure the adjustments all the way down. Yep. I'm going to make sure that the roller is at the back of my feet. That makes sense there. And then I'm going to bring this all the way down. Okay, from here I'm going to push, bring my heels to my glutes. A squeeze at the very top. Similar to the leg extension, is going to squeeze at the very end of the motion. Control down, squeeze, control down, and squeeze. Good. I know a lot of people, like, this isn't necessarily just for this exercise, get carried away in the sort of technique of things. While technique is very, very important, what's even more important is that you're kind of showing up and you're doing the work, right? I know it's like, even nowadays with YouTubes and social media and stuff like that, we have a lot of videos of people doing workouts and exercises with a really bad form, really bad technique. My sort of thing is like, okay, this person's kind of gone through the hardest part, which is actually showing up and going to the gym. The next stage is actually fixing the technique. So as long as you're kind of getting your technique right, if you're unsure, you can even send me a message saying, hey Adam, how's my technique? I'll do my best to kind of give you some feedback on it. And yeah, and then that should be kind of the gist of it. Once you kind of get an understanding that you want to have a strong concentric and a controlled eccentric, that's generally how it's going to work for a lot of people. Anyway, that's it for this workout today, guys. If you want more information, just check the description below. And yeah, I hope to catch you in my next video. Take care.